Hola and amigos, and welcome to Keyframers, the animated collaborative coding live stream where we bring imaginative user interfaces to life. I'm your host, Stephen Shaw, but you may know me as @Shashaw.
And I'm your host, David Khourshid, also known as @DavidKPNO.
Together, we are coding compadres, animation amigos, Boolean buddies, and keyframe companions.
So we're going to be creating, as always, an animation from scratch live using HTML, CSS, and a little bit of JavaScript.
That's right, and this show is made possible by your support. You can pledge at patreon.com/keyframers or hit the like and subscribe buttons around here somewhere. We also have additional links available below.
Yeah, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have. So please talk to us during the stream and we will be attentive as possible.
Absolutely. So what's going on today, David?
Well, have you heard the news? I mean, there's the Notre Dame. that just happened recently, and that's some very sad news. But
yeah, that is wild.
A little crazy. We are not news anchors though, but that just happened in case you weren't aware.
We could be. Yeah. Well, today, let's see. Should we get right into the animation?
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry to start off on a bad note, but
no, it's world news, current events. That's what we're known for. Hey, get out of here, Doc. Let's go away. There we go. All right. So taking a look at today's animation, Maxim Kashin Architects by Diana. And yeah, stumbled across this one on Dribble, and I liked the nice little circular image transition. When I actually dug a little bit closer in on GIF Scrubber here, I noticed that the image transition isn't actually circular. It's just kind of an expanding overlay on top of that. I think we can do a little better than that.
Yeah, and there's a lot of cool little details here too, such as the header transition, where you have the words that just have that cool effect. Where you see this in a lot of motion design things created in After Effects, where the titles slide up or slide down, but they're also obscured by their imaginary container.
Right. Yeah.
So that gives a really cool effect.
It does. It certainly does. Yeah. You want to get right into the code then?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Let's get in there. All right. So, whoa. Looks like we have
not too much. No.
Yeah, not too much setup done yet, which is fine.
Yeah, so basically we're going to have like our app just as a list of products, right? And so we have a product, and the product is going to have a photo, which I put in the figure tag, and the photo goes in this image. And then it has the title, which goes in this h2 tag, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah. That's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Want to go into Keyflections?
Yes, you've been watching. I think we've got a little bit more to do here.
All right.
So yeah, where do you want to start?
So let's start with the actual layout of everything. I have this ghost right carrots showing up on the. Anyway.
See, hold on, refresh, because I'm getting where there's no end carrot.
That's funny. What's going on? All right, I refreshed.
Hey. Let's see. Let me refresh just to make sure we're in sync here. Okay. All right. Yeah, some temporary oddity.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see.
Cool. So yeah, what we could get started with is the general layout. So first of all, we know that this, first let's make the body and HTML full width. By the way, the resets that we use, like box size and border box position relative, body HTML with 100%, height 100%, that's just for us to get our prototypes up and running, real quick. So we could do this in under 2 hours, of course. So by no means do you have to use these resets in your actual project, and please consult with your team and with your technical requirements before
and your
using
doctor.
And your doctor. Especially if you're using position relative on everything. I probably need to see a doctor for that one, but
yes. One important reset is also to set the margin on figure. I don't know why it has such a dramatic margin by default.
Yeah, I don't know. Lots of defaults are defaults that I don't agree with.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm sort of still talking about that position relative thing, but we won't go into that. That's okay.
I will admit that I was thinking today that if position relative were just the default from the inception of web stuff, then that probably would be well supported by everyone in the web community. But
right.
The fact that it's not is, I think, where trouble comes in.
That's totally fair. Totally fair.
People just don't like differences, you know.
They don't, but that's okay. Yeah, I'll probably rant about that a little bit later. So anyway, yes, what we want to do, we have our photo over here. We want to set up CSS grid on each of these products so that we align the title in the correct place. And especially when you're making just unique layouts like this, you really want to use CSS grid so that you can get the positioning exactly right. And so, I mean, that way you don't really even have to care about position static or relative. That really comes into question only when you're using absolute styling and, well, I guess C index too, and stack contexts and stuff like that. But anyway, we have Flexbox, we have Grid, and those are two really, really good tools that you should use in your tool set because it's 2019 and we're trying to kill IE. So
that's right. Get out of here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's display grid for each of our products, and then I'm just going to do like a 2x2 type of grid. So grid template columns 2 or 1FR 1FR, grid template rows 1FR 1FR. Now, if you look at our past episodes, you can see that we do use CSS grid a lot. It's extremely useful, and we're not really even taking advantage of the full power of CSS grid, but there's a lot that we could do there.
Right. I still need to just really study the syntax so that we can take more advantage of it. But
and what we want to show you is that even with minimal knowledge of CSS grid, that already could improve your CSS and your styling by a lot. And in fact, a lot of the more advanced parts of CSS grid either have to do with special sizing concerns that are more specific use cases that you might not run into every day, or shorthand. And there's nothing wrong with not knowing the shorthand. Like, for example, you might see us write out grid template columns and grid template rows and immediately think there's a shorter way to write that. We know, but it's too much mental effort on a Monday to to remember what that shorthand is. So
well, and remembering the order of them, it gets complex.
But if you know, I mean, feel free to chime in the chat, and we will definitely learn from you. Because it's a two-way thing. You learn from us, and we learn from you.
I'm pretty sure it's just grid template, and then you use that /
Yeah, something like that.
But yeah. Anyway. All right. So we've got a product with the photo, and then we've got a title. All right. So let me position the title here. I know you're going to come back and caret that. So good column 2. Is that right? Let's see. Background blue. I always like to just do background colors to make sure.
Yeah. So speaking of shorthand, we have grid column 2. Does that stand for like 2 to 3, or what's that stand for?
So yeah, that's basically so right here in photo, I've got grid column 1 to -1. That just means it spans the entire grid area of columns. And then grid row, the same thing. So that even if this were 4 rows, it would still be the same thing. So grid column 2 is basically the same as grid column start 2, and then the default of like grid column end or whatever is just spanning one column. So it starts at the second column and doesn't go any further. And then same for the row. If I were inspecting this in DevTools, you'd be able to see the grid there. Let's see. Yeah. So if I hover over the product, you can see right now I've got four columns in there, but we can drop that back down to 2. And then you see, yeah. And then
I'm trying to make, speaking of layout and styling, trying to make the whole products not super big.
What do you mean?
Actually, let's do this. There we go. Never mind.
Yeah.
I'm good.
And then
all right,
here for the image, we want object fit cover. Right. And then width 100%, height 100%.
That's big, but getting bigger.
Go.
Yes. All right, maybe 70 then. I don't know.
Sure.
And then, yeah, let's see. Yeah. So in order to prevent, like, right now I have this Wellington chair in one span, but I don't want it to break. So white space, no wrap, and overflow hidden. Those 2 properties will do the trick, hopefully. Probably not. Oh, wait, just kidding. Now they will. There we go. Perfect. Yeah.
Is this COBOL? Yes. Yes, it is. Question in the chat there. So what's the reasoning with the white space no wrap, just to force it to be on the line?
Yeah, because with each of the images, we have a specific style, and that could be dictated by a designer or whoever. And so we don't want words ending up in a line which they shouldn't be on. For example, Wellington chair might be on. In fact, maybe I should just make beef Wellington. And if you're wondering why I'm naming this beef Wellington, it's because in the original thing, it's called Welton Park, and it's an image of a chair, so I'm calling it beef Wellington because that's the first thing that came to my mind, and I'm hungry. So
shouldn't it be more like that then?
Yeah, there's got to be an easier way to add all these spans.
You would think somebody would have come up with the library or something to do that.
Yeah.
Already.
Yeah, maybe we'll play around with it. Like, ooh, nope. I added a non-breaking space that did exactly the opposite of what I wanted it to do, which is break. But let's put beef Wellington in one span because I have the rule where.
Well, shouldn't it? If you look back at like the first slide, there's a 3-line one, so we can do 3 words across 3 lines.
Oh, okay, fine.
And then for title, display grid align items. So let's see, what's a good way to get this text aligned towards the bottom there? How would you?
Oh, towards the bottom, we could use display flex actually. So let's see, we have grid column, grid row, blah blah blah. So let's just
no, you're good. You're good.
And then flex direction row, and then justify content flex end. And what that's going to do is that's going to say, so it's going to do the wrong thing. Oh, wait. Column. Just column, if I could spell column. What that's going to do is it's going to say the flex direction comes vertically, x or the y-axis, right? And because it's column and it's starting at flex end, so the bottom instead of the top. And then yeah, that's about right.
Yeah. All right.
And then we could adjust the spacing later, but this is fine for now. So we have our nice beef Wellington chair. Sort of looks like a beef Wellington.
A little bit.
Yeah.
All right.
So Danny in the chat, suggested grid repeats 2 1FR repeats 2 1FR. So that's a good shorthand for grid, and that's going to stand for, I believe, grid template columns, grid template rows, right? Or should it be grid template?
I actually think it's rows first is one of the weird catches that always gets us.
Yeah.
So
it's just, yeah, that's the fun part about CSS is that you have to memorize a bunch of things, but it's sort of like this the more you do it, the more you know, and there's still a lot that I don't know.
Speaking of things to memorize, this scroll bar was bothering me. I don't know if you have scroll bars visible at all.
I don't.
One thing to remember is image is display inline block, so line height applies to it. So if you have a full size image that's the full width and height of something, there's still going to be a little bit of extra space because it has a line height, oddly enough. So if you toggle that over to display block, then no problem. You'll often see this with Canvas. People do full screen Canvas demos, and they forget to set display block, and so scroll bars are everywhere, and it gets crazy.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got an image. Without having another one in place, should we just go ahead and work on a circular transition so that we can get
sure, but
that basic idea in place?
I would presume that would require another.
Nah, we'll just do it with one right now.
All right, fair enough. So yeah, for this, one technique we could use without introducing extra elements is to have a pseudo element represent the circle. If you remember material design, this is something that has been all the rage. Those what are they called? Those ink spread buttons or circular.
Yeah, I don't know the name for them, but
yeah, it's very material design like, and I don't know if material design still does that. It honestly, design moves so fast, like even that feels a little bit dated right now. But
yeah.
This is part of the animation that we're working with, so that so we're going to use it. And so let's just add a after contents nothing. And okay. So here's the thing. Before we get too far into this, we could approach this in one of two ways. We could have a small circle that expands, and we use transform scale to expand that. Yeah, transform scale. Or we have a big circle and we make it small at first, and then we make it go back to the original size. Yeah. Now, the disadvantage of that is that's a little bit more work and more thinking. The advantage is you're not going to get those pixelated edges on the circle. So
now are you still thinking just doing that like ripple kind of effect, or are we actually going to mask the image?
Do you want to mask?
I'd kind of like to see that.
All right, how would you mask?
So there's a couple different ways we can do this. So first way would be with the photo container here, something like border radius 50%, and then overflow hidden, and transform scale 0.5, whatever, and then this would be transform scale to the opposite of that, and then we animate that transform, hover, transform, scale 1, just as a quick example. And then image, transform, scale 1. And then let's add a little transition in there. Transform, 1 second, ease. And then if we hover on it, oh, what did you break?
A lot of things. Nope, you're good. Okay.
Oh yeah,
we just need
the image needs
here too.
Yeah, transition.
Yeah.
Inherit. And you know, it works. It's a little glitchy.
Right.
So the other approach is to actually use mask.
Cool. I actually want to see this because I haven't worked with this in a long time.
Yeah. Let me hey, thanks Santiago McRib. Got some bits on Twitch there.
Yeah,
that's always nice to see. Actually, I need to look this up because I forget the exact syntax. It's a demo I've done before. Mask image. Oh, hey, no Siri. I don't want to talk to you. Get out of here. Okay. All right, here we go.
So while he's doing that, I'm working on adding a couple more images, and so we're using the same basic layering technique that we use pretty much everywhere. So.
All right. So right now, did you apply a global transition?
I did not.
Okay.
Why would I randomly apply global styles for no reason?
That is a good question.
I would never.
So let's see. Got that. All right, we can take off the scale 2 here. Right. So see, it's working. Mask size. I want to be.
I'm really curious about this.
Max. Hey, thanks for subscribing.
Thank you, Hello's Moon.
All right. So, I've got mask size set in there. If we do, let's do 10. Max,
oh.
Mask.
Repeat.
Oh,
this is looking fun.
Repeat. Yeah, you can get some.
Yep. Nope.
you can get some fun effects going here. Transition. Let's just say mask. And then there we go. Now, this isn't ultra performant. I would say there may be some performance issues we see with this. Let me find my mouse again. Yeah, there we go. It's hard to say what's my machine and what's
yeah, there's you know what, it might be my, well, I don't know if it's both of our machines, but
what did you do?
No, I didn't do anything. So with this, with your masking thing, actually, let me see where you're doing your
around line 56
mask image. So there's this really cool site that's actually, it hasn't changed in many years, but it's called csstriggers.com. And never mind, I was going to tell you about how it says what mask does, or like what it triggers.
Yeah, I think it's so old that mask doesn't even apply.
Yeah, mask is one of those newer properties.
Yeah.
Anyway, you could probably guess though that mask is not going to trigger layout because it's purely based on paint, but it is going to trigger repaints. Yes. And that could be expensive, especially when you have large images.
Yeah. Let's see. Size. Yeah. Go from 0 to 100. Now, so one of the things we can do is we can try animating it a couple of different ways with mask to see what works. So like mask size here, that may not be the way to go. Let's just do that, and then we can try animating the actual mask image. 0%, 0.1%. Let's see, hovering this should... Nope. That doesn't actually work. Animating with mask image. So take that out.
This is some fun experimentation.
Yeah. Let's see. Next. Something like that. All right. Well, what do you think? As in terms of performance, it's only going to be it's not going to be a constantly triggered kind of animation.
No.
Is this passable?
It could be fine. Could do the job, and we could always fall back to using just a circular ink thing,
right?
If that doesn't work out, but right now it looks like it's working out, so we're safe from now.
Yeah, I'm gonna move that hover portion. Now hovering should shrink the mask. All right, that's good. And actually, let me go back and reference that example. Mask move, yeah. Mask size. Okay, cool. All right. And now the fun part of this is if we want to implement the mouse move tracking, we can do that as well with mask position. If we wanted to get really into it. Yeah, so you're already getting a nice transition just by adding that other one in there.
Yeah, looks pretty nice.
All right.
Cool.
So how do you... Oh, you're implementing some JavaScript down here. I see that.
Yeah, and actually it's pretty simple. And so I'm going to make 6 of these. And I guess for now we could just... Well, these are all Beef Wellington chairs, so...
Let's see, what's the
other
one?
We'll probably want to find some new images.
Yeah, for now, just copy both of them so there's at least alternating.
Yeah, and so the idea is whereas we have a oh yeah, I must have copied them wrong. I want to fix that.
Sure. Yeah. Keep talking about what the actual transition.
Okay, so the idea is we're going to add just like you would add a .active or whatever class, which you should not do. And I explained that in another episode, but I'll go over it again today. We're going to be adding a data attribute of data active on whichever product is active. And we keep track of that in the JavaScript. So we could keep track of all the products. And right now I just hard-coded an array, and I'm going to probably fix that later. And then we have a little where we're tracking which products we're on. And so what Shaw is doing is he's adding that number onto each one of those. Now, as we go through each of the active products, we're not just going to do a display none because that sort of defeats the purpose of a nice seamless transition. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to, when it's not active, we're going to remove, or we're going to transition it out. And then when it's active, we're going to transition it in. And so we could just do that in the CSS with that data active.
Yes. All right. So I'm going to take off the hover here, and let's just test the clicking. Yeah. Wait. Okay. So right now, I'm down at the very bottom now, and you did data active.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do dot product data active. So opacity 1, just for fun. Dot product by default is opacity 0. Rather than using not, this is the way I like to do it.
Yep, everything broke.
Right, I think I just reached the end of that. So let's.
Well, it's supposed to loop back around.
Right. Let's see.
Oh, I have a JavaScript error. Cannot read property data set of undefined.
Right.
L products. I mean, it's dot product, right? Yeah. So dot product and then L app is the app, and so let's see what's actually undefined. I wish that CodePen would tell me. And I say these wishes as I know that Shaw works at CodePen and could actually
would tell it tell you what line? Okay.
Yeah,
I fixed it. Your array was off, and there's no point to even using the array, so I just changed line 12 here to use L products, which is array like. So we've got the length there.
Okay.
And so we're just looping through the products in that.
So it goes beef 2, 3, 4, beef 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
We need
back around
2 more.
That's fine.
Right. Okay, fine. We'll go through 4.
Well,
less images to download. Right.
Right.
Okay, cool.
Performance conscious.
Yes.
All right. So what we can do here is trigger all that mask stuff down here. All right. So we'll say, what is it? Photo. That. Photo mask size. X. And that should hide all of the photos. And then in the active one, we will show it. And I'll take off the opacity portion. Oops. So that we can see our transition happening here. Okay, and you can see the text is all wonky, but that's okay. Yeah.
Cool. That's a really nice transition.
Yeah, it's working out. I'm gonna move the transition down here so that all of our animation code is grouped. Keep getting bumped around. Let's do mask size just to be even more explicit. Go. And we can say transition delay. 0 seconds. Transition delay. 5 seconds. Something like that.
Oops.
Actually, we want to reverse that. 5 seconds. And this way, we just get the new one transitioning in rather than the other one out. I'm going to find a couple more images. What are you working on?
I'm doing the title animations, sliding in. Just a nice simple animation. And actually, I'm going to move the duration to a CSS variable before we get too crazy with that.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to make a duration CSS variable. And I'm going to make it 1 second.
Okay.
Not in 1 second. I already made it, but I'm going to make it 1 second.
Yes.
So let's see, transition delay, 0 seconds, transition delay. All right, that's fine. Transform, var, duration. These, okay. Yeah. Yeah, here's the interesting thing I want. There was a really cool effect. Actually, I don't know how we're going to do this, but there was a really cool effect that we had both the text and the both texts like showing at the same time, I believe. Yeah, they did that, and so I really want to capture that.
You mean just the way that they fade in and out?
Yeah.
So yeah, well, that's happening currently. It's just there's some issues we've got to iron out.
Mm-hmm.
Let me do a couple different photos here just to help us with see the slides a little bit better. Just getting some nice modern art chairs.
I'm messing up the title animation somehow.
Okay, so walk me through what you're doing.
So we actually did this technique in some of our other episodes too, where basically if we want them both to slide, so we want them both to slide up. We want the previous one to slide up but out of view, and we want the current one to slide up but from the bottom, if that makes sense. So I think that's just a case of, let's see, product is translate y negative 100%. Then the active one should transform to none, which it's doing. And then the next one, following one, should be, oh, this should be 100% too, I believe. And then this one should be negative 100. Okay. I think I just had there we go.
I gotcha.
Except we still have the weird thing where the
when it loops around.
Well, yeah, the loop around, but also, which is fine. I mean, that could just be a feature, not a bug. But where we're not seeing both titles at the same time, which I guess is fine for now.
I'm seeing. Yeah, they're overlapping. It's just the way that the animation is happening. You sometimes don't see that.
Okay. Yeah, we have this. It's a little like, well, when you transition from one to the other, it just there's this weird like when the text is together, but that might just be the, oh, you know what, that's the HTML. I had to fix up the HTML, so I'll just do all that dirty work. Don't mind me. Yeah.
Let's see, it always helps
good.
me to
Nothing to see here.
tidy things up a little bit.
Oh no, what are you doing?
Just trying to make things a little more readable.
There we go. Yes.
All right, was that the issue?
Yes. Man, this looks so good now. And now, okay, here's what we could do. I'm actually really excited about this. Where's our H2? Is our H2 the title? Did I?
Yes.
Wow, did I
No, the
put that?
title is a div. H2 is inside of
Okay,
the.
why did I do that? That
Uh,
was way too much nesting.
it's helpful for the flex alignment a little bit, but
Okay,
not
okay. But still.
that. And you know that maybe there's more than the title in this. Eventually, you know, you've got
In fact,
product
there
details.
is. There is. In the original animation, we do have more, which, okay, sure. And so what I'm going to do is, and this is a nice little trick that I could add text align center to the middle line and then text align right to the last line. And then we have this cool design thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks pretty good.
We don't need that. Yeah. Yeah, I can dig that.
Yeah.
Dang.
I mean, this is looking pretty nice.
Yeah.
Here, let's. You know what? I'm gonna bump up the size of the fonts just because for accessibility, you know, you always have the clash between the font color and the background, and that's easy to control when you have a solid background color, but it's not as easy to control when you have an actual background image, because that could be a variety of different colors.
Yeah.
And so accessibility guidelines say that to remedy this, if you don't have, like, if you don't quite meet the accessibility guidelines of contrast, then you should increase the font size. But that's only part of it. You know, of course, you still want it to be readable. But long story short, having a larger font size definitely does help with the accessibilities, and that's why we're making this big. Plus, it's in the original animation too. So
yeah, a lot of times what I'll do to help with that as well is just doing a little bit of an overlay on top of the image to just make it a little less saturated and a little more do that or actually setting a background here and just having an opacity on the image 0.9 will get us that same kind of effect. Yeah, and that just helps pull the image back a little bit and helps the text jump out. All right, so I'd say we're like, you know, 85-90% of the way there. Should we do the mouse tracking real quick?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
If you've got the time. All right, so CSS variables, good stuff, right?
Yeah,
you like them?
They're perfect.
Document.add event listener mouse move. This is where magic is gonna happen. So CSS variables are great for kind of merging interactive pieces with a stylistic portion of that.
Did I break something?
I'm doing some JavaScript, so it might be.
Aha! You broke something.
Yeah.
Cool.
So let's see. For example, let's add a your little code divider here started getting a little glitched out, it looks like.
Mine?
plus underscore equals minus 8 equals minus 3.
Oh, perfect.
All right, so let's say mouse tracker. C index 999. Position absolute width. And
Interesting. While you're working the mouse tracker, I'm investigating why it's going down instead of up when we.
What's going down?
I don't know. I'm yelling timber. 100%. Okay. So what are you doing with the mouse tracker exactly?
So right now, let me just make sure this is working. X times pixel, and then explain a little bit. Yeah, there we go. All right. So the basic idea here in our JavaScript document, add event listener mouse move. Anytime the mouse is moving, this is going to trigger. So you might want to debounce this a little bit, but it's fine for a demo. What we're going to do is every time the mouse moves on the document element, that's HTML or root in the CSS. On that style, we're going to set the property of mouse X equal to the client X of the mouse. That's basically just the mouse position in the window. And then mouse Y, which is equal to the vertical position in the window. And then our little mouse tracker element is going to use those CSS variables. So right here, I've got it position absolute, so that by default, it's all the way up here in the top. And then if we use that transform, translate, it's using that mouse position to just be translated around. And you can see that it's not centered on the mouse. So what we can do is translate -50%, -50% first. And then it's nice and centered around the mouse position. Does that all track with you?
I'm on track. It's a bit.
That's good. All right. So that can be used for this little mouse tracker, but it can also be used for our mask.
Aha. Wow, such a simple way to add such a simple effect.
Yes. So mask position right now is currently center, but this could be mouse position or mask position. I'll actually just copy right here and let's see if this is where we want to go.
Whoa. So maybe we want to do it on mouse down. This is a little trippy. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. So that.
I mean, it's good. It's just trippy.
Well, so one of the things we could be doing is instead of transition, we could be triggering an animation, and that'll help.
Wait, so what are you trying to do?
Well, for the circular mask image.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is instead of mouse move, do mouse down.
Well, we do want our image mover or our little mouse tracker to keep following the mouse.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But we can do we can do a few things here. Uh, so yeah,
well, so what I was going to say is probably have 4 properties. We have a mouse move and a mouse down. So the mouse down would track like a mouse click X and the mouse click Y or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, that's probably the most straightforward way to do it.
Yeah.
So we just copy that, mouse down X, down Y, and technically this should probably be all pointer and whatever, but
yeah, especially if you want to support touch devices, which we're not going to do right now, but we will maybe in future episodes.
Who uses touch devices?
I do all the time with my phone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a thing. I have one of those fancy phones that you could touch. I mean, you could touch all phones, but this one you could like touch the screen. Which you could touch the screen of all phones, but things move when you touch the screen. Sometimes, not all the time. I'm trying to describe a touch phone to, like, as if someone never heard of a touch phone. It's very hard. It's like imagine your phone, but you could touch it. Or like things happen when you touch it, which I mean that's for every phone. All right, I'm gonna stop now.
All right, let's see. Something's off. My math. Do I need to? I might need to do the offset from the center instead of the actual pixel position. Let's see. Can you help me with this math real quick?
Sure, I'm good at math. I think. It's way too big. Okay, let's go down to the math. I'm just adding a little bit of something.
All right, line 60, 63-ish in the CSS.
Like a 64 type of 63.
Yeah, this area. So right now, instead of center, I've got 50%, 50%, and then adding the mouse offset from there. But
is it not showing in the right space?
Well, like if you click in the center, now the center is happening from the bottom left. And if we take off the 50% and the 50% and then click in the center, it's still, yeah, that's weird. Is there something else that's,
This is pretty fun, not gonna lie.
It's an interesting effect.
Yeah, not really what we're intending.
No.
So, Or basically we want the mask to happen from wherever you click the mouse. That should be the center.
Right.
Of it. Let's see, mask position, calc down. And so what happens, let's just do a little math here. What happens if you do mask position like 50%, 50%? Is that going to give us what we want? Yep, yeah. It is. So it's going to give us our 50%, 50%. Now, our var mouse down X, what we want, I'm guessing, what we could do, this is a little risky, but let's try it. Let's try 100% times, I have no idea if this will work. My mind will be blown if it does. Times var mouse down X divided by 100 viewport width, and then this one is going to be divided by 100 viewport height, and we had to put all of these in parentheses right here. And does it work? Or did it just not do anything?
It's not quite. It's still. Now, would this be 50%? 50% divided by 50, 50 plus plus.
So, okay, well, what happens if we, I'm just trying to understand this whole mask position thing. What happens now if we do like 10%, 10%? Let's see. Okay, so it originates from the top left. So
Right.
why does 50%, 50% originate from the center and 10%, 10%?
It's a lot like background position, if you think of it that way.
Yeah, no.
Background position can be quite odd in terms of it doesn't exactly orient from that position, right? Like it does some averaging of like the size of it as well. So that might be what's happening. Is it's because the size is also changing. That's affecting where it needs to be, but we do want that 50%, 50%.
All right, so I think the mask position does need to be 50%, 50%.
Right.
But let's see, well, what else could we change?
I mean, we can translate the images itself.
And
then offset that. Hold on. Stay with me. Stay with me.
Okay.
Translate. This will be mouse down. I don't think this will work, but it's worth a shot. Okay. And then it's negative. Kind of. You can see. You can see what's happening.
Close. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, it's not really what we're going for.
Okay.
The idea was there. You know?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I just don't know enough about mask image and all that masking stuff. So.
Yeah, I think we would need to get a little more mathy down here in the JavaScript.
So the mask, those properties have to be on the photo themselves, right?
What properties?
The mask size, mask position, mask whatever. They can't be at different elements or. I'm just shooting in the dark. So we have mask position center, which is.
That's what we want.
Yeah. So what if we do like? I'm just experimenting here. So what if we do like 10% center? Yeah, okay, because the problem is that when the mask grows, it's still not going to give us exactly what we want if we change. So I think the problem is more fundamental than that.
Right.
Where
with
it's
the
still
size
not going to grow from the center. And because we have it perfectly centered, we have it exactly the way that we want it right now.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be as dynamic as we want without, of course, a lot of math. So,
Yeah. But what we can do is create that ripple effect from the little hoverer. We wanted to. Though I guess we'll need to track when the mouse is actually clicked and all of that.
Yeah, I'll keep thinking through this whole mask position thing because it's an interesting problem.
Yeah, well, part of the problem of it is the mask still needs to be big enough to fit the whole window, no matter where it is. So that would be 200 Vmax or something like that, which is fine. And then the position changes as the mask size changes, I believe, because of the way like background position works. Oh, sorry, covering up your face here. Let me pull this up and see background position. See if there's a good explainer for it. Place an item. Right. Regarding percentages, the percentage offset of a given background image's position is relative to the container. Yeah.
Sounds like one of those escape room clues.
Well, yeah. Here in the Mozilla docs, it's container width minus image width times the percentage of the position. So it tries to center the image on that particular percentage value, and then that way, like background position 100%, it really means like a bottom right anchor of the image, and so it gets positioned in that way. And I believe mask position is handled in the same way. Oh, let's see. Mask origin. Oh, no, that's just content box and that. Let's see. Mask mode. Mask size, mask type. Right, refer to the size of the mask painting area minus size of the mask layer image. Yeah, so it is the same as background position. So that's gonna cause a little bit of trouble. What we're going for. Right. Well, that didn't pan out as well as I was hoping. Yeah, there's probably some math we can use to get that going, but I prefer not to spend half the stream on math.
Yeah.
Shall we bring it to a close? Oh, hey, got some.
Yeah, I got some extra stuff in there. Just add one more thing.
What are you doing?
4. Cool. Yeah, let's bring it to close.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, we are now entering into the part of the show known as Keyflections, the part of the show where we review the techniques we used to build this animation. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask in the chat, and we'll be happy to answer.
Yeah, and of course, if you enjoyed watching this so far, follow and subscribe here on Twitch or YouTube, or pledge at patreon.com/keyframers, and links are available below.
That's right. All right, so let's go back to our source animation here, our inspiration. Maxim Cashin Architects by Diana Dubina. So this nice little effect, we've got the text sliding, we've got this kind of circular image feature, all that fun stuff. So we've got that basically recreated here with a few modifications. So one of the changes we did is an actual circular image transition. If we look at the original animation, it's really just an expanding circle that fades, but the image itself is not being clipped, which is, still cool, I guess.
Yeah.
But we took it a different route. So yeah, walk us through the structure a little bit, David.
Sure. So the structure of the HTML is pretty simple. We have an app, which we always use, and then we have a bunch of products. And the products are going to have two parts, which is the photo, which I put inside a figure, and that's just for, be semantic, be accessible. And we have the title, which is just the title description of the product. Now, what's interesting is that this title has a few nested parts. And so the entire title is contained inside an h2 tag and a redundant div class equals title, which, I mean, you might put other stuff in there, like Shaw mentioned. But inside the title, we have a div, and each div represents a line in the title. And then we also have a span that represents each word or each line. And the reason for that is because this span is what's going to animate up and down, and it's going to be obscured by this parent's elements, the div. And that's because the div has overflow hidden. And so you're going to get that nice effect of it clipping in and out. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the HTML structure. And the 2 bits of like keyframers and 1 out of 4, that was done using pseudo elements on the actual app.
Yeah, let's dig into those just real quick so we can see what you did there. So looking at our app element, we have the before and after, position absolute, or just keyframers in there. That's easy enough. And then the after is using a content attribute, which is awesome.
Yeah. So in our JavaScript, we set that you like whenever we click, we change which product we're on, and so we set that to the current product. And so we could also add the product counter or whatever you feel like adding over there. And you see this pattern a lot in a lot of the keyframers episodes that we do, is using data attributes in order to display information or just keep important bits of state in our elements, just because that makes it really easy to work with CSS.
Yes. And check that out. Now we have a dynamic length in there as well. Super
cool.
Easy
Can we add more?
Yeah, of course. All right. So let's get into the layout here. We use display grid. It's just a four cell kind of grid. Mm-hmm. We've got 2 columns, 2 columns and 2 rows. If you look at our product, each product here, and then within that, our photo takes up all of the columns and all of the rows, using that handy little slash syntax and -1. And then our title is set to be grid column 2. That means it starts at the second column, and grid row 2, which means it starts at the second row. So it's in this bottom right one. And then we've got a nice display flex to get that aligned towards the bottom, because if we look with the border, you can see that it's actually this full little square here. So that's great. And then let's talk about the image transition. Walk us through how that actual switch is happening.
In the JavaScript?
Yes.
Okay, so we start at 0. We keep a reference to our app and each of the products, and that's because we're going to loop through each of the products whenever we click the app. And all we're doing is we're keeping track of which products we're on. So we're starting at the first one, which is 0 over here. And we add 1 to go to the next one. Now, this is a fun trick over here, and it's actually a pretty simple trick that is always handy to use. By using the modulo operator, first we're getting the next products in which we add 1, and then we modulo lproducts.length. And what that's going to do is once we reach the end, so let's say we have 4 products, it's going to go from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3. And then once it reaches 4, we have 4 modulo 4, which is 0. So it loops back to 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, which is exactly what we want. Then we set each of these bits of data, like which products we're on. Actually, we should do like next product equals product plus 1 and be responsible. What the hell would I have to set product? Whatever. Just kidding. We're fine. And so we set the data slash whatever it's called, data dash product to the next product. And then we set whichever product, so whichever dot product element, we set the data attribute of data active to true. I mean, you could set it to anything. Basically, in the CSS, we're just checking that it's there. And we remove it from any previous ones by this delete right here. And so it's really good to research what this data set magical object does, because it's really handy for adding and removing data attributes.
Yes. So looking at the CSS, you can see we're targeting products with data active, and then we do kind of some default styles on product, which this could be product not data active if we wanted, to make sure that like JavaScriptless fallbacks still worked. Either way, that should be fine for this demo here. So basically, for our photo, we've got mask size 0, 0, and that mask is set up here, which I'm going to move that down to the animation code just so that's a little easier to follow. So by default, our mask is a radial gradient that spans pretty much the whole thing. If we take off mask size, you'll be able to see the clipping happening there. But by setting the mask size to the Vmax, 150 Vmax, you don't get the edges of the circle there. And then on the non-active products, we have a mask size of 0, so that whenever it becomes active, it just transitions that mask size and animates that nice and smoothly in. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is with that circular animation. Yeah.
How about the letter animation or the?
Right. So
that one is seemingly simple. However, it could get a little bit complicated. So.
Right. As great as the web is, text and text animations are often very difficult, mostly because you can't really target specific text. You really have to wrap everything in order to do any kind of trick with it. Hey, for subscribing, or thanks for following. So yeah. Dean asks in the chat, do you change the Z index of the active product? I did make that change. Let me find my mouse here.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, because if you're looping back around to the first item, that can cause a lot of trouble without the Z index. If you're just progressing through them sequentially, then that's not a problem. But yeah, the active one is higher.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so with our text, we have a div for each line and a span within that. And then the div is set to overflow hidden. And then we have some text align happening just to give us that nice kind of stair-step effect. The span within that div is translated off. So you can see that right here. We have the first line translated down, the second line is translated up, and the third line is translated down. So you get that effect where both where the lines are kind of going opposite ways. Then when it becomes active, we just set transit and transform none, and I just overrode the specificity there.
Yeah,
don't worry about that.
Yeah, the we've used this in a bunch of our gallery or carousel like transitions, but basically you want to keep in mind that we have three different things to consider. We want to consider all the products that happen before the active one, and so that's just dot product. So without the data attribute, and then dot product with the data attribute, data active, represents the active one. And then using plus dot product or even squiggly dot products, but we'll do plus just to be safe, that represents the one after. And so yeah, we should create some sort of visual. But yeah, because of specificity, this works out beautifully because otherwise we would be targeting every single product instead of just the ones before the active one or the ones after the active one, because we want each category of those to behave in a different way.
Right. Yeah, and that's a great little effect, and that effect works really well for images and elements and things like that, where you have a wrapper element set to overflow hidden, and then the element itself that you want to move around, being the one translated, so that you get that kind of clipping effect, which is very nice. All right, and then lastly, just covering the little mouse mover real quick. In our JavaScript down here, line 20, document add event listener mouse move. So just every time the mouse moves, we're running this little function. So on the root element, document.document element, we're style.set propertying of a CSS variable that contains the position of the mouse in the window. Mouse X and mouse Y map to client X and client Y. And then in our CSS, we've got a little position fixed element, and it's transform translated to that mouse position. We have to apply the unit of pixels to it because it's coming through without a unit. And then we're also translating it negative 50% to center it on that mouse position. If we take that off, you can see how it is just kind of off to the side, which is another interesting effect. Good. Okay, thanks for tuning in. All right. So yeah, we tried getting the mask position to be exactly where the mouse is, and with a little bit more math work, we can probably get there, but we'll maybe save that for another
That's
time.
Fine for now. It's a
or
good MVP.
As an exercise for you, the reader, the listener, the
or
watcher,
the viewer, the listener, if you're listening to this somehow.
Right, subscribe to our podcast.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, I think that's about it.
Yeah.
Shall we bring this to a close?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, you have been watching Keyframers. If you've enjoyed this episode and would like to see more from David and I, there are many ways to support us, but the top way is to pledge at patreon.com/keyframers. That supports us each month in doing these live streams and creating other content. So get over there to patreon.com/keyframers. You can also subscribe and participate in the live streams each week. If you have an Amazon Prime subscription, you can subscribe to us with Twitch Prime, which doesn't cost you a thing. It just supports our channel with that Amazon Prime account that you already pay for. Mm-hmm. And you can also like and subscribe at youtube.com/keyframers, which is where we'll post this video when we're done.
Yeah. And we do accept submissions for future episodes. This one, we decided to go through a few and choose one ourselves, but please give us your submissions because we would love to see whatever challenges you throw our way. And you could tweet us at Keyframers or even at Shasha or at David K. Piano with any animations you'd like to see. And you could also present questions or challenges to us, and we will answer them on the air. So please share this video and the demo once it comes out across all of your social platforms. Print it out, put it in the mailer, go to
put it up on your bulletin board,
and just yeah.
Exactly. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. Until next time, adios, amigos.
Adios.